Boy, have I got something boring to talk to you about today. We're going to be talking about zero trust. If you haven't heard about zero trust, it's probably because whoever your provider is, your internal IT company, has not really got involved in it yet. Zero trust is a concept that's been around for a long time, but only in the last few years has it become more of a platform, right? Where software vendors are creating solutions, they're calling them zero trust. And there's zero trust configurations in existing infrastructure and so on. So I'm going to launch straight into this, and I'm going to read some definitions of zero trust from some different companies. I'm going to kind of explain what they mean by that in relation to their applications and what they sell, because zero trust is not a overarching product. You don't go buy zero trust. You don't buy someone's product that says we are zero trust. Although there's some products that are very, very robust that cover and check either all the boxes maybe or a lot of the boxes for zero trust. But there's a lot that just cover one box for zero trust. Maybe it's authentication for anyone that enters your network. Maybe it's your network segmentation where nothing is trusted on the network. But in short, I'm going to get into this a little bit, but I'm going to talk about some of the applications. And I've just got a Microsoft Word document. I'm going to kind of scroll through here and read some of the definitions that various companies have and explain them. So here we go. What is zero trust? So we utilize a product called ThreatLocker, and ThreatLocker is an amazing product. It is really good at securing an environment, devices like endpoints, like Windows workstations and so on. And it says that it's a zero trust platform, and it is. It's not as overarching as what we would expect from a full zero trust platform. Now, don't get me wrong. We think ThreatLocker is amazing, and everyone should have that to secure their environment. But ThreatLocker primarily works on the application side. The way we see ThreatLocker's primary value for our clients is we can take and install ThreatLocker agents on a Windows workstation, for example, and when that user wants to escalate to install an application, they are either authorized at the application level to do that, or they are denied, or they can request approval to do that from a sysadmin or someone in the organization that is allowed to do that. And it starts a timer, and they have so much time to approve it and so on. So that seems like something. Why do you need an application for that? Because Microsoft Windows by default only gives you basically two options. You can be a local administrator on your computer, or you can be a user with no permissions except for to run the apps that are already on your computer, and that's it. Well, if you're a user and you're using Zoom, for instance, for meetings, conferencing, which is, Zoom exploded as a powerful product a couple of years ago when COVID hit, because everyone had to work from home, and we either used Zoom or you hoped that Microsoft Teams was going to check that box for you while they were still developing it as fast as they could. So you run Zoom. Well, Zoom is releasing updates almost daily. And if you were not a local administrator on your computer, you couldn't install those updates. So you're working from home and you are not a local administrator. Every time Zoom would release an update, you either choose to update it, or you would run on obsolete or older software until you could get your IT team to update that for you. The alternative of that was you were a local administrator on your computer and you could run the updates. Why is that a problem? Well, nobody should be a local administrator on their computer. And the reason for that, even me as an IT professional, I should not be a local administrator on my computer. And the reason for that is if you're a local administrator and you fall for any kind of compromise on the internet, you go to a malicious website that has a payload, you click the wrong thing, you get an attachment, you run it, whatever those things are, as soon as you execute that threat actor, that application on your system, it runs as you, which means that if you're an administrator on the computer and you can install applications and you can configure things in your system, that now that attacker's application running on your computer can do all those same things because you executed it, it runs under your credentials, has full rights to anything on your system. Well, where ThreatLocker comes in is it actually says that's either allowed or denied on every single thing that runs on your computer. You are not an administrator. There is basically, I'm going to abbreviate this, but there's basically a hidden interrupt in your system that when you try to execute something, ThreatLocker looks at it and says, is it on the allow list, is it on the deny list, or do we not know what this is? And if it's on the allow list, it will automatically let you install or run that application. If it's on the deny list, it will not let you run or install that application. In fact, it'll send alerts to maybe IT or someone else that application tried to run because it could be malicious since it's denied. And then the third one is you try to run it, it doesn't allow or deny it, and it prompts someone, a third party or an in-house IT person or your manager to authorize to run and install that software. That is zero trust when we talk about the application. Now, ThreatLocker does a bunch of other things. I'm not going to touch on all those. That's our primary value in ThreatLocker, and there's some other really cool stuff that it does. But that's just really the application side. You've got a user, and that user is not being denied trust across the network to other devices. They're being denied trust on that individual device to do things unless they're authorized. So nothing's allowed unless you authorize it. Now, the way ThreatLocker does that is you run in like an auditing mode. So we would install the agent, or your IT department would install the agent on your computer, and it audits everything you're doing. Then we would go through and say, okay, all these things are allowed, but we're going to deny these few other things over here because, well, you shouldn't be playing, arcade games on your computer. So we're going to deny those applications, maybe uninstall them, not allow installs and updates, and so on. So that's ThreatLocker's idea of zero trust. Now, again, they've got more, so I'm not poo-pooing ThreatLocker in any way. I love their product. So we're going to go down and we're going to look at another product. So this is a product called Airwall. And Airwall does a lot of things as well. I'm going to be really cautious here because I'm not trying to downplay any of these products. I think they all have their place and they're really good. But Airwall's primary point of Airwall is it sits on the far side of your firewall, and it controls access in and out of your network in very granular ways. And it's an amazing product. If you're a big engineering firm and you have servers that are internet facing, or you've got employees coming into your network, you can truly isolate anyone coming in and say, you can go to this IP inside the network and not that IP. So when we talk about Airwall, it's more of a LAN zero trust, or a wide area network zero trust, but it sits outside your network and says what can happen on your network, who can do what, going in and out of the network. So it's not like the application side on the endpoints. It is more data going in and out. Who can talk to what from inside and outside your network? And it's an amazing product, and it's got a lot of other features. But when I think of Airwall, that's how I think of Airwall. All right. So now we're going to go down to another product, Crowdstrike. Crowdstrike's one of those kind of does it all, and all these products have their varying price points, so you might choose one that does something that you find is a really high risk and it's less expensive and it nails that problem really well, or you might just go, hey, I need all these things, and you would go with a higher end product. Crowdstrike does a lot of it. So I'm going to read what Crowdstrike sees as what zero trust is. So they say zero trust is a security framework requiring all users, whether in or outside the organization network, to be authenticated, authorized, and continuously validated for security configuration and posture before being granted or keeping access to applications and data. Zero trust assumes that there is no traditional network edge. Networks can be local, in the cloud, or a combination of hybrid with resources anywhere, as well as workers in any location. Well, if you're a technical person, that may make sense to you. If you're not a technical person, you're like, what did you just say? What I said is, Crowdstrike is a very comprehensive product, and it's not one we sell, full disclosure, and it's a great product. I'm not dogging on them either. But it's very comprehensive, and it does a lot of things. It'll tie to firewalls, it will control the network, it control various different things on your LAN. It does a lot. So they've defined zero trust as all those things, whereas other software vendors like ThreatLocker has defined it as a very specific subset of everything. Okay? So zero trust from Crowdstrike's perspective is applications, it's authentication into your systems, it's in and out of the network. It is anything that's going on pretty much in your network. All right. Or out of your network where people communicate. So Crowdstrike also points to NIST SP 800-207, which is National Institutes of Standards and Technologies, the federal government, that puts down recommendations and for cybersecurity. So they have their own zero trust recommendation here. And I'm going to read a little of this, but I'm not going to get into it because as soon as you get into government, it give you a migraine reading this stuff. It's not written in a way that the average user is going to really comprehend. So zero trust is the term for an evolving set of cybersecurity paradigms. We're going to have synergy next. That move defense from static network-based perimeters to focus on users, assets, and resources. A zero trust architecture, ZTA, uses zero trust principles to plan industrial and enterprise infrastructure and workflows. Zero trust assumes there is no implicit trust granted to assets or user accounts based solely on their physical or network location. Now I'm going to stop there. So what they're trying to get at is the traditional way up until a few years ago of building a network for a company is you would go into a small business or any size business as an IT professional and you'd make every single employee an administrator on their computer because you know what, they're going to travel and they need to install printers and do things. And first of all, management does not want you to restrict them from doing anything. So viruses, ransomware spread everywhere, took all those systems out, and everyone was like, we've got to come up with a solution. Well, the solution is to take away people's ability to do those things, but give them the ability to do work-based functions and maybe a few things over here that are maybe not work-based. And so Zero Trust came along and it said, instead of granting everyone trust on the network, trust on their computers to do things because we trust them, they're an employee that I hired and I trust them to do their job. I've been told that before when I talk about security. And instead of trusting them, we're saying we do not trust them. Let's audit their systems. Let's look at everything that they're doing and let's say they can do these things and let's remove the ability to do these other things. And they can talk to these outside resources or these inside resources, be it servers, applications, databases, whatever, and not talk to these other ones. And it's much more granular. But traditionally, we used to say we trust everyone in the network, in the office, and we trust no one outside the office. So we're going to say we trust everyone in the office. Then if someone falls for a ransomware incident, they're a local administrator on their computer, and they get infected, that computer now is a springboard to infect everything else on the network. If we don't trust anything on the network and we only let things communicate one-to-one on certain specific ports using protocols, things like that, then that cannot spread either at all or very easily. Okay, then you import, you do things like LAN, local area network segmentation, where you have isolated, nobody has access to communicate anything on the local network without authorization. It gets very complex, and it's an amazing platform, but it is a lot of work to set up, manage, and configure. But the goal being that your employees can do work. They can truly do the things that are important for their job, but they cannot do the things that are accidental or intentional misuse of their products, like installing every shareware thing under the sun. All right, so Zscaler is another product. We are a partner with Zscaler. We think very highly of them. And they define Zero Trust in a way that I really like. I think it's a simple, easy to understand definition of Zero Trust. Let me scroll down a little more. So what is Zero Trust? Zero Trust is a framework for securing organizations in the cloud and mobile world that asserts that no user or application should be trusted by default. Following a Zero Trust principle, least privileged access trust is established based on context, such as user identity and location, the security posture of the endpoint, the app or service being requested, with policy checks at each step. So that's a great definition, and that is, to me, a comprehensive Zero Trust platform. So they have a very strong Zero Trust platform at Zscaler with lots of little add-ons that accomplish all these things. So the Zero Trust definition is Zero Trust is a cybersecurity strategy wherein security policy is applied based on context established through least privileged access controls. And that least privilege it's pretty obvious, right? You don't need it, you don't get access to it. You need it, you get access to it. But it's least privilege, not most privilege. A well-tuned Zero Trust architecture leads to simpler network infrastructure, a better user experience, and improved cyber threat defense. Absolutely, all those are true. All right, I'm going to read just this last sentence or two. A Zero Trust architecture explained. A Zero Trust architecture follows the maxim, never trust, always verify. This guiding principle has been in place since John Kindervag, then at Forrester Research, coined the term. A Zero Trust architecture enforces access policies based on context. You'll hear that over and over, including the user's role and location, their device, and the data they are requesting, to block inappropriate access and lateral movement throughout an environment. Now, lateral movement. I'm on my workstation. It gets ransomware. It spreads to the computer next to me because I'm a local administrator and I have rights on that computer as well for whatever reason, or every computer I log into can now become infected, whatever it might be. So you want to control that. All right. So Zero Trust. Why am I talking about Zero Trust? It is the future. It's here now. We all need to be considering it. It is going to change the landscape of security. There's a ton of security tools out there that when you move to a Zero Trust platform, you can probably drop some of those other privileged access management platforms and things. Those will either be incorporated into the Zero Trust platform, or maybe they're not necessary at all because you have limited access to a better extent in a different way. That's all I've got. Just wanted to go through Zero Trust. I hope that made sense. It's not the most intuitive thing to understand, but my point, or one of the takeaways from this, is you need to understand the basics of Zero Trust, how it can affect your business. I left one thing off. Most of the Zero Trust platforms have some form of always-on VPN that is on each endpoint. So those endpoints, when they leave your network, can maintain access to resources within your network. Zero Trust, and CrowdStrike mentioned this before, is basically perimeter agnostic. does not care that you have a firewall. It will talk to any device inside the network that you tell it to on most of these platforms, and those devices can talk to things outside the network. They're always on the same network segment if you say so, but only able to talk on those protocols and through the ports and things that you allocate and allow. All right, that's all I've got. Hope that made sense. Again, if you have any questions, reach out to me. My name is Brian Largent with the Arclight Group. Have a great rest of your week.